Hey there and welcome to the Weaver's World. I don't know about you, but I love pirates. When I grew up, I read Treasure Island and watched a lot of Swashbuckling movies, and later on I got pretty heavy into One Piece and listening to Ailstorm. So when I found 7th Sea, I was instantly hooked. It has everything that makes pirates so great. Hunting for treasure, epic sword fights on land and on ships. Ships, by the way, that you can customize and play with too. And, as a cherry on top, it even has a pretty cool magic system, which is why it is often called a swashbuckling and sorcery system. In this video I will cover the basics of the continent that 7th Sea mostly plays in, and I will also talk about ships and the very basics of the rules. This video is based on the 2nd edition, and I will of course be skipping a lot of things. If you are interested in the game, I advise that you buy the books. So, grab some rum, like this video, subscribe for more like this, and let's set sail. The continent of Théah is based on the Eurasian continent during the golden age of piracy. It is also the only continent most people know about, although there are stories about other strange places. We will get to that later. Théah is surrounded by 7 seas, although the eponymous 7th Sea is a bit of a mystery, somewhat between an uncharted ocean and a legendary realm where unexplained phenomena happen. With Théah enjoying a period of relative peace, many of its nations have taken on trading with one another. As this happens mostly by sea, every nation has a stake in protecting its vessels and those they are trading with, while piracy is a lucrative business. Indeed, some crews have actually bound together to form their own pirate nation, something that worries the other countries. As a continent inspired by Europe and Asia, Théah has a wide variety of different nations where your character can come from and travel to. I'll only cover those of the basic rulebook, but there are more in later books. Also, there are supplements that go into much greater detail on every one of those nations, as well as other ones. The United Kingdom of Avalon is actually comprised of 3 separate kingdoms: Avalon, the Highland Marches, and Innismore. They are mostly seen as one single nation, and while this is not strictly true, the authority of the Avalonian Queen encompasses both of these countries as well. So I will address them later and only talk about the singular Kingdom of Avalon for now. Avalon is, obviously, inspired by England, mostly as it was during the Elizabethan era, as well as how it is often portrayed during the Arthurian legends. In fact, the authority of the current Queen Elaine is legitimized by her owning the Graal, a mysterious object said to be a gift by the Sidhe to a true ruler. Avalon also houses a large fleet, both of military personnel as well as buccaneers, who are entitled to hunt pirates and keep a share of their haul. Still, the old ways of magic, called glamour, are an important part of Avalon. The Sidhe are enigmatic, almost fairy-like beings of tremendous magical power who are fickle and often childlike in their temper, but also respected as maybe the true rulers of Avalon, at least by the common populace. Castile is inspired by Spain, especially during the Spanish Inquisition. Nominally, it is ruled by the young King Sandoval, although there is a second, more powerful faction at work. The Vatican Church has its main seat in Castile and in fact rules the country. Any decision the young king makes is improved by his royal advisor, all of them clergy, so that nothing he does goes against the wishes of the church. Also, the Inquisition has grown stronger over the years to the point where they can imprison and torture almost anyone. But there is hope. A masked hero called El Vago, who is a master at swordplay, often shows up in the most dire of moments to save innocent people from the Inquisition. Who El Vago is behind their mask, or why they do this, is an unsolved mystery, but one that the Inquisition works hard on solving so that nobody escapes their clutches. The country of Eisen is modeled after the Holy Roman Empire of Germany after the 30 Years' War. Caused by a schism between the Vatican Church and the Objectionist faith, the so-called War of the Cross devastated what was once the most powerful country on the whole continent. Today, Eisen is a shattered country, with many local rulers claiming small pieces of land. As if that's not enough, the horrors brought by the War of the Cross have caused monsters to appear, so blood-hungry ghouls or cruel vampires are a real danger, and anyone traveling through Eisen would be well advised to hire bodyguards. If not to fend off those monsters, then to defend themselves against bandits and robber knights. Part of the Avalonian crown, the Highland Marches are reminiscent of the Scottish Highlands, reigned by a council of clans and characterized by its foggy weather and gruff but honest people. Currently, the Highland Marches are in a political standstill between the Unionists, who support the claim of the Avalonian crown to reign the Marches, and the Separatists, who want to see their own High King in Parliament acquire more power and, ideally, become independent from Avalon altogether. Innismore, based on Ireland, is part of the Avalonian crown as well. The people of Innismore care about their personal and family's honor very much, and insulting one of those can get you an enemy for life around these parts. The king of Innismore, Magic O'Bannon, accepts the Avalonian authority for the most part, but this may change quickly. O'Bannon is either an immortal demigod or a very powerful individual who has claimed the name of this mythical king. His mood is hard to predict sometimes, but this goes hand in hand with his people. Perhaps the richest country on the continent, if not in the world, Montagne is inspired by France during the reign of Louis XIV. The people of Montagne are quick to point out the high living standard even their lower classes enjoy, but the nobles of this country enjoy truly outrageous wealth and luxuries. At the top of society sits the king, Léon Alexandre, who has divided his country into smaller provinces, which are each ruled by a count. The politics of Montagne are a delicate, complicated matter and almost impossible to comprehend for outsiders though. Montagne is not only the richest country in Théah, but leads in fashion, art and philosophy as well, and even has an impressive military to boast. Up until recently, the Polish-inspired Sarmatian Commonwealth was ruled by corrupt nobles and clergymen, who all but controlled the entire country. Nominally, the king was the highest authority, but the only thing he could really do was to appoint members of the lower chamber of deputies, lesser nobles, whose voices were often overruled by the Senate. Recently, however, the king proclaimed the entire population to be nobles from now on, turning the Sarmatian Commonwealth into something akin to a democracy overnight. The Sarmatian people are proud of this, and making them all nobles was not that far off to begin with. Even the peasants of this country hold up the virtues of chivalry and honesty. Like its real-life inspiration Russia during the reign of Ivan the Terrible, Usuria is a harsh, cold land, but its people make do with what they have. Old traditions dictate much of their lives, and their proverbial hospitality is as much a decency as it is a safeguard for their own well-being. They might very well need a hospitable soul themselves one day. An important element of Usuria is the Matushka, a legendary witch of great power, whom some assume to be the soul of the country itself. It is said that no Tsar can reign for long if Matushka does not approve of them, and those who are not charitable will be visited by her to be taught a lesson. That may or may not be true, but Usurians are a superstitious lot, despite their usually pragmatic approach to life. Up until recently, the people of Western Menavenia, Westen or Wendel for short, were known as pirates and the terror of every coastal town. This has changed somewhat, as this Scandinavian-inspired country now boasts itself as a nation of trade. Sure, some of their people still terrorize other ships and villages with their ridiculously fast longboats, but many more organize themselves into more or less honest guilds. The old faith is strong in Westen, and their jarls still hold great power, but the politics are shifting in this northern country. The guilds grow more and more powerful, and some merchants already hold power comparable to that of the jarls. And with the Westen's own money being accepted in every other country, owing to its stability and the good diplomatic relationships their commerce brings, the merchants will continue to shape their country for a long time to come. Akin to Italy during the Baroque period, Vodace is a country of great craftsmen, but what it is mostly known for is the fact that intrigue, backstabbing and treason are greatly appreciated skills there, and that one should always be careful, no matter where or who they are. The most powerful faction in Vodace are the merchant princes. 7 extremely powerful merchants, or one could also say crime lords, who each control one of the vastly profitable trades of the country. There are numerous other powerful men and women, of course, but these 7 are the cream of the crop and need to watch their back the most, lest they be disposed of by someone better suited for such a dangerous job. Bodace is also very much defined by a certain kind of magic that can only be learned by its women. More on that later. And to the east there are other, strange countries. While the Empire of the Crescent Moon is still somewhat known for its people's religion and weapons of folded steel, virtually nothing is known about the Kingdom of Cathay, which is separated from the rest of the world by a literal wall of flames. Many strange stories are told about these countries, especially by sailors who claim to have been there. While they usually sound like the kind of yarn sailors like to spin, they are often the only source of information anyone has about these lands and thus cannot be denied outright. And lastly, there are the pirates. They actually managed to form a sort of coalition, the Pirate Nations, with every ship that has joined this coalition being regarded as a mobile island of sorts. They are not normally recognized by any of the other countries, but they do have a leader, currently the Pirate Queen Bonaventure, a charter, and even try their hands on diplomatic relationships to other countries, mostly by threatening them into recognizing them as a state, lest they continue attacking their ships. There are rumors about some islands the pirate nation uses for retreat and commerce, but whether or not that is actually true is impossible to say from without. In 7th Sea, more often than not, you will play a pirate. They can hail from any of the countries described earlier, and the reasons to become a pirate are manifold. Maybe your character is a citizen of Eisen who wants to earn money for their family back home. Or they are a bored Montanian aristocrat who wants something new and exciting to tell at the next soirée. Maybe your entire crew is from Avalon and has recently been awarded the honor of plundering other pirate ships and keeping a share of the haul. Whatever your character's reason to join the pirates is, though, they need to make themselves useful or they won't be pirates for long. That goes for combat, but also daily situations that the journey on a ship will bring. Your character may take on the duties as the ship's navigator, its cook or the shipwright, for instance, when there are no enemies to fight. 7th Sea does not have character classes like many other games do. Instead, you are free to design your character in any way you see fit. A unique system 7th Sea uses is that of a personal history your character has, which will grant them advantages and new skills as this history progresses. So for instance, the aforementioned citizen of Eisen may want to visit their family back at their hometown one day and realize that they are living rather well at the moment, granting them some relief and a new advantage as they realize that they are making a difference. So advancing your character is not only done with experience points, but by telling their story, following natural ups and downs, and, in the end, a satisfying conclusion. Another thing your crew will need is a ship. Like your character, your ship will also be influenced by its country of origin. Your ship will also be used to store your loot and provisions, as well as in fights against other ships and even sea monsters, if you are unlucky enough to encounter one. But with every adventure your ship accompanies you on, and with every adversity it overcomes, it will gain bonuses to symbolize the fact that your ship is not only a vessel, but a member of your crew in a sense, whom you have grown attached to. And of course, you should never forget one thing. 7th Sea is all about flair. In fact, your narrative approach is probably more important than your dice rolls. It is meant to invoke a sense of epic adventure and stunts. So whatever your character does, they should do it in the most dramatic way possible. Don't just dodge an attack, elegantly dance around your aggressor while taunting their sloppy swordplay. Jump on a table and throw the candles, food and plates at them. And when they follow you, pull the tablecloth from under their feet. Any movie with Basil Rathbone or Errol Flynn may serve as a great inspiration here, should you want to play a swashbuckling hero. And if you want to do magic, well, we've got that covered as well. Magic in 7th Sea is tied to its country of origin, although only a few of them can only be learned by natives of that country. For example, in Montagne, there is the strange magic of Porter, the ability to create portals and use them to cover long distances in the blink of an eye. This is only accessible to those of Montagnier nobility by blood and their claim to power. Meanwhile, women born in Vodace may be what is called a sorte strega, a witch, capable of influencing fate itself. These women are often used as political tools by their own family, not allowed to learn to read or write, and instead forced to practice their magical skills, so that their family can gain an edge in the constant play of intrigue Vodace plays every day. These are only two examples for the many kinds of magic to be found in Théah. Your hero may just as well be a powerful sorcerer to aid their crew. But, like fighters, doctors or cooks, they are just one part of the crew who only as a whole can best the seas. With all that being said, there is so much more in the world of 7th Sea to do. Secret societies, who often operate on the whole continent and try to further their own agenda. Your character might be part of one of those, or even separate ones, without the others knowing, to add some intrigue to your game. There is also the mystery of the ancient Cerneth civilization, which seemed to be incredibly advanced in terms of technology, as well as having mastered a strange kind of magic. There are only ruins here and there now, and many organizations and countries have laid their eyes on them. And, of course, your characters are the heroes of this story. This also goes hand in hand with a system that will reprimand you if you take too many villainous actions. If your GM feels that your characters are acting more like villains, there are actually mechanics for them to employ. These could end your character's story as a hero and make them a villain controlled by your GM. So, while you are pirates, always remember that even you have boundaries and things you wouldn't do. This is meant to keep your crew from becoming bloodthirsty murderers. If you want to play these kinds of characters, you might want to skip that rule. And that is the gist of 7th Sea, a swashbuckling system that really captures the spirit of what it means to be a pirate. At least according to those old adventure movies. Its narrative-first approach really suits that idea very well. If you liked this video, be sure to tell me in the comments. That also goes for if you have a suggestion about what system I should cover next or questions you want answered. So, thank you for watching and see you soon.